What's up, y'all? We are here for our midweek alchemy message. It's a little later in the week than usual. We had our new moon and Cancer workshop yesterday, which you should go and watch. Our new moon was in the wee hours of the morning on Wednesday night. So I came home from work last night and filmed the workshop and got it up late last night. So we're picking up with our normally scheduled content for Wednesday. So out of the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, we've got the Argentum or Silver. We have Magnum Opus or Great Work, the Great Work. And we have Margarita Preciosa, the New Pearl. All right, and then underneath Silver, we've got Four of Wands. Underneath the Great Work, we've got Five of Pentacles. And underneath Margarita Preciosa, the New Pearl, we have the Hanged Man. Awesome. So our midweek alchemy message is when we take a look at the work that we're doing and we unpack our approach to what we're working on within ourselves. The Silver card talks about the fact that silver, in order for it to be shining and radiant, it needs to be maintained. It needs to be polished. It will tarnish when it's exposed to the elements. And so it's always kind of an ongoing process with silver to keep it polished. Doesn't make silver bad. In fact, silver is the second most precious metal compared to next to gold, right? So we do value silver, but we know that with the silver, the nature of silver is that it requires work and effort, but it's worth having because it's still a precious treasure, so to speak. So we are the silver. We are souls that can be very radiant and we can shine and reflect the light, but in order to be radiant and reflect the light, we have to maintain our patina, right? We have to maintain our sheen, our luster by continuing to polish our soul. Right? And that is when we do the regular reflection and even on a daily basis, look at the day and think about what you could have done differently. What are the things that you're working on as a person and as a soul, and where were challenges throughout the day where you could have gone better? Now, this is interesting because this card is paired with Four of Wands. Four of Wands is about a season of feeling good. It's harmonious. There's a sense of well-being. All is well. This is the marriage card. So think about like the excitement of a wedding. And then think about the messages that have been talking to us recently about the sacred inner marriage or the alchemical wedding within ourselves, where we're merging our waking physical material self with that higher self. And so part of that is that we've come to a peace and an acceptance within ourselves that it's just an ongoing process and that the work is never finished. But there is, so there's no reason to beat ourselves up, but there's also a possibility that we can tap into that future perfected self and get guidance and get leadership from that version of self that's already completed the work that our soul has come here to do. So in that connection with our higher self, we can marry the future self or the perfected self, so to speak, with the current waking material self and start bringing that consciousness through in our behavior and in the way that we show up in this life. And so I think that gives us a sense of well-being and abundance, knowing that we're not lost and we haven't gone off path, that we're right where we need to be, and that the work is just always the work is always working. And the more layers that we uncover and the more light that we're able to reveal, the more that actually has an effect on the rest of the world. Our own personal effort to awaken the light of our soul and transform our own darkness actually does add to the collective cosmic scale. Our own individual scale is being weighed out in any given time, but our effort makes a difference and it adds to the light of the collective effort. So that's really great. So the magnum opus is the great work. And that's what we do life after life after life, is that we come here and we are given people and experiences and places and circumstances that are going to trigger the parts of our soul that still need to be corrected or evolved or healed or awakened. And so many times those experiences and people can be triggering, right? Sometimes we get amazing mentors that bring out the best in us through ease and love and joy. But many times these are life's kind of curveballs that they throw us, right? So it leaves us feeling many times a bit vulnerable and out in the cold. And so as we're going through our inventory of our life's experiences, we want to make sure that we are appreciating our hard times, because they created faith and certainty and strength in us and confidence, and they did things for us. They gave us strength that always living in ease and comfort could not have done. And so we don't want to get scarcity consciousness and look at ourselves as less than because of what we have come through or what we feel we're still working on. And we don't want to get focused on what we don't have or where we're not, feeling like we're at the finish line or where we would like to be, right? There's a tendency to want to feel angry or disappointed or impatient. And that's because we are limited in our perception about the actual amount of light and goodness we're revealing in just the humble act of healing our own soul and awakening that light. Spending a really good day and spending quality time with a parent or family member could reveal even more light than, say, hitting a milestone in a big achievement that you think is going to be the big thing that drives the needle forward or that tips the scale. But maybe it was just spending a really special day with your parent who needed it, right? So we underestimate the effect that we have in bringing light into the world sometimes. And we get caught up in material results and we start looking around and comparing ourselves to other people and feeling like we're behind. But that really puts a limit on what we imagine and expect for ourselves, because keeping an open mind about what's possible rather than putting labeling compared to other people, like, oh, well, they're here at this point, so I should be there too. You're limiting yourself. Maybe you have God has a whole other plan for you that you don't even know about, right? So you're not getting those ideas because you're tunnel vision looking at other people. So, many times when we get in this state of sadness and disappointment and feeling exposed to life's harshness and challenges, we start to get withdrawn and we start to look down and we start to turn inward and we start to get really into ourselves and obsessed with ourselves and feeling victimized and really self-absorbed in a negative way. And the characters in the Five of Pentacles, they're usually out in front of a cathedral with lit up stained glass windows. And basically it's saying that like we get so downtrodden and focused on ourselves and our own suffering that we forget to look up and see that God is there in all things, and that God is present in the situation, and there's always help and there's always refuge available. And there's the temple, right? The temple within and the temple without that we can go to for comfort and guidance when we feel exposed and left out in the cold. There's nourishment that we can connect to at any time. We don't need to reach outside of ourselves. It's just that we forget that when we get consumed with what's gone wrong. And then the Margarita Preciosa, this is talking about that pearl that is created over time by that one grain of sand, that one irritant that's inside of the oyster that gets layers and layers of whatever it is, like I can't think of the word for the liquid that the oyster puts around, the secretion that the oyster puts around the grain of sand to keep it from irritating the tender flesh of the oyster, right? And it happens over time. And so think about that irritant. Think about what the pearl represents. It represents the wisdom of our experience, our lived experience, things that we know from the inside out. And many times the lived experience that we go through that gives us that wisdom is an irritant. It's like that grain of sand that is just digging into that tender part of us. And we many times bemoan that irritant, and we want to move past it. We want to rush past it. We've got the hanged man here. The hanged man is usually representative of a moment in time where it feels like nothing's happening. It feels like things have come to an apparent standstill. But really there's more going on than meets the eye. It is really a moment for us to shift our perspective and change the way that we see things and change the way that we think and just shift our consciousness. So in this moment, we are impatient and we want things to take shape, and we want to feel like we see the evidence that we're in this next chapter, and that new things are happening and that new opportunities are coming in. But we can't bypass the work that is required before we get to that next chapter, right? We can't sweep it under the rug. It's too important to deal with now. And so this moment is allowing us time to really get clear about the way that we see life and the way that we are approaching life and what we are speaking into existence and what we are not speaking into existence. And so the universe is giving us this merciful pause that's allowing things to transform and transmute as parts and pieces are coming together, right? So that we don't fall into the same self-sabotaging tendencies. We don't fall into the same patterning and the same thinking and the same behavior that leads to the patterns that left us in the chaotic circumstances before, right? We're the new chapter, we're hoping creates and gives us creates space and provides us more peace and serenity and flow and harmony and abundance, right? That's what we hope. We want God's rest in this next chapter. And so part of that, it comes from us finding inner rest and inner peace inside and not warring with ourselves over things that the ego is worried about, but the soul really isn't too concerned with. So that is that. Don't feel impatient. Really take time to look at the irritants in your life, which is your tikkun. Do you have thematic issues or problems or types of chaos or illness or afflictions or ailments that you've had to constantly deal with through your life? Do you have themes in your relationships? What stands out to you about some of the more charged and triggering aspects of your relationship with each of your parents? These are going to be big clues as to what your tikkun is that you need to correct. And what is our tikkun? It's each one of our own individual, unique, basically workbooks for the soul, right? We all have a soul that we carry with us through different incarnations and different lifetimes. And through those lifetimes, we awaken aspects of the soul's personality and levels of consciousness, and we correct for the soul's weaknesses and shortcomings and negativity. And this kind of like accumulates over the years too, because like we're born, originally when we start out as a soul, we're given a certain amount of darkness that we transmute over these lifetimes as part of our collective work that we do together as we come to earth. Part of the rent for being here is, hey, okay, this is left over from the creation of the universe. It's the refuse. You need to like transmute this so that it doesn't perpetuate in darkness, but that it's changed into light. And so on top of that portion that we're given, we kind of add to it over lifetimes by doing things that create more negativity. They create prejudices and biases and fears and limitations and anger and things that end up holding us back because it builds up these walls and these layers. And so that's what we're doing. We're undoing that, and we're breaking down those walls, and we're dissolving those layers. So in order to do that, though, we have to be able to look at that irritant. And so when we feel it coming up and we feel it getting our attention, instead of avoiding it or numbing out or snuffing it out, look right into it and let it tell you what it needs to tell you in order for you to get to the other side of the process that is involved, right? Is it a new mindset? Is it something that has to do with forgiving someone? Is it a habit that needs to be broken? You'll know, and there might be different things, right? You might have issues with both parents that you need to work on. Maybe it's just one parent. Have you always had problems with managing your money or not knowing how to manage your money? Are you afflicted with terrible relationship issues? Is there chaos in your relationships? Like, where do you end up finding that you have the most chaos and dis-ease within your life? And that's what the Margarita Preciosa, the new pearl, is trying to show us. It's like, these are the things that are giving us that earned wisdom, but we have to address those. Those are our assignments in this life. The irritants are the assignments. All right, you guys, I hope you have a good night. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekend reflection message. Until then, I hope peace be with you. Ciao. We've had a new moon in Cancer this week on Wednesday in the wee hours of the morning. There's a sense of inner peace and harmony beginning to emerge from within the self. A peace that comes from surrendering to acceptance that the great work is never complete. We are a work in progress. It is important that during times of goodness and prosperity, we continue to proactively maintain our connection to the Creator and our devotion to correcting and awakening our soul. There's a temptation of the body consciousness to want to feel impatient and hurry it along. The healing, the achieving, the receiving. The body consciousness wants instant gratification. The soul, on the other hand, knows the nature of the process is ongoing. Like wine, which continues becoming year after year. Do not bemoan the irritant that drives your work, but seek to understand it. How is this irritant showing you your scarcity consciousness? How is this irritant provoking your fear, lack, and doubt? Sometimes we get consumed with our focus on our problems and on having to do it all on our own, and we forget to look up and ask for God's help and guidance. We don't see that the temple is here to offer us light and shelter and nourishment. Surrender to this seeming pause in activity. This is a moment of grace given to shift our perspective as things are being brought together.